Hello, in this video we're going to take a look at subtracting and adding rational expressions. Our first example, we've got 2x over x squared minus 9 minus 6 over x squared plus x minus 12. Now remember, when you add and subtract fractions, doesn't matter whether we're talking about algebraic expressions or whether we're talking about strictly numbers, the first thing to add and subtract fractions is always to find our least common denominator, our LCD. The LCD, remember, is all of the factors that we see in our denominators here. So the first thing we always want to do when we're finding our LCD is factor the denominator on both fractions. So x squared minus 9, that factors to x plus 3 and x minus 3. And x squared plus x minus 12, factors of negative 12 that add to a positive 1, that's going to be x plus 4, x minus 3. Now notice we've got an x minus 3 in both of our denominators. We only need one x minus 3 at a time because that's all we have in a single fraction. And so we always want to use the smallest power that shows up for each factor. So the different factors that I see going there, so we want to now find the smallest power, sorry, not smallest, largest power of each factor. That appears. And that, when we multiply it together, is going to be the product of each of those factors. So here our LCD is going to be equal to, we've got an x plus 3 to the first power, we've got an x minus 3, we've got to the first power is the biggest one that we see, and so x minus 3, we're just going to leave it to the first power because we've only got one at a time in each of those fractions, and then we have an x plus 4 on our second fraction, second denominator, so that's got to be part of our LCD. So our first fraction, we've got 2x over x plus 3, x minus 3. Well, that gives us those first two, but we're missing that x plus 4, so we need to build this up by multiplying top and bottom of our fraction by that x minus, or x plus 4 fraction or factor that we were missing. Notice how that was missing from our original denominator, so we're going to multiply top and bottom. Now we don't want to cancel that out. We're actually doing the exact opposite of what we do if we are reducing a fraction. All right, for our second fraction, we have our x plus 3 and our x minus 3, but we're missing that x plus 4 and x minus 3. We're missing that x plus 3. So we're going to multiply top and bottom by that x plus 3 so that we have the same denominator on both of our fractions. When we add or subtract fractions, we always want to make sure that we keep that common denominator, and we're going to add or subtract on our numerator. So we're just going to push these two fractions together, push these two numerators together. We'll get 2x times that x plus 4 minus, since our first term here is just a 6, we're going to just leave it as a 6. We don't have to put parentheses there. We want to make sure and do that if we have a binomial or anything more than just one term. And then we're going to keep that common denominator, x plus 3, x minus 3, x plus 4. Now we just need to simplify that numerator, so let's distribute our 2x. Here we'll go ahead and distribute our negative and our 6 on the second fraction. So 2x times the quantity x plus 4 gives us 2x squared plus 8x. And then if we distribute that negative 6 on the x plus 3, we'll get negative 6x minus 18 all over that common denominator. We want to make sure and write that denominator each time so we don't forget about it. All right, combining like terms in the numerator, we've got 2x squared is the only thing we have with an x squared. 8x minus 6x is going to give us a positive 2x, and then 18 on the end. And our last step, we want to make sure and factor out, make sure we don't have any common factors here. So let's factor out. I see 2, 2, and 18 are all even numbers, so we can factor out a GCF of 2. That's going to be x squared plus x minus 9 all over x plus 3, x minus 3, x plus 4. And x squared plus x minus 9 in the numerator, we can factor that. The factors, well, wait a minute. No, we cannot factor that. There are no factors of negative 9 that add to a positive 1. The only factors of negative 9 are negative 3 and positive 3, and negative 9 and positive 1, and negative 1 and positive 9. None of those are going to add to 1. We're not going to be able to simplify this any further, so that will be our answer. All right, let's do another one. Here we have x plus 6 over x squared minus 2x minus 8 minus the fraction 8x plus 1 over x squared plus 2x minus 24. So just like we saw in the last example, we want to factor each of those denominators to help us find our LCD. So the factors of negative 8 that add to negative 2 are going to be a negative 4 and a positive 2. And the factors of negative 24 that add to 2, that's going to be a positive 6 and a negative 4. So our LCD here is going to be, we've got an x minus 4 and an x plus 2 from our first denominator. We've got an x plus 6 from our second denominator. We've already got the x minus 4 on the list there, so that's going to be our LCD. This first fraction, we're missing that x plus 6, so we're going to multiply our numerator by x plus 6, and we're going to multiply our denominator by x plus 6. For our second fraction, we've got the x plus 6 and the x minus 4, but we don't have that x plus 2, so we're going to multiply. Make sure you put parentheses around your numerators if they have more than one term, to multiply it by our missing factor for our LCD. X plus 2 goes on the top and the bottom. Now we have the same factors in our denominator. So we get x plus 6 times x plus 6. If you want to write that as x plus 6 quantity squared, you can. And then 8x plus 1, x plus 2. And then our denominator is that LCD, x minus 4, x plus 2, x plus 6. All right, let's go ahead and expand that numerator so we can combine like terms. Now, one thing I do want to point out, we do have common factors in part of our numerator and our denominator, but we cannot cancel them out unless they come out of all pieces. We have 3 terms here that we're looking at, 2 in the numerator and 1 in the denominator. Remember, terms are always separated by a plus or minus sign. But since we don't have any factors that are common to all 3 of them, we cannot reduce anything out of this fraction until we can factor it out of everything. Alright, so x plus 6 times x plus 6, that is a perfect square. And it's going to simplify when we multiply it out, x times x, and then we're going to get 6 times x from our inside terms and our outside terms. So we're going to get a total of 12x when we multiply that out. And then 6 times 6 is 36. Now for our next term, in the numerator, 8x plus 1 times x plus 2. We're going to get 8x times x is going to be 8x squared. We do want to make sure and subtract this whole thing, so we're going to put parentheses around it so we can distribute that negative. And then 8x times 2 is 16x. 1 times x and 1 times 2. All over that common denominator. All right, let's go ahead and distribute this negative. So instead of subtracting it, we're going to add a negative on our 8x, a negative on our 16, a negative on our x, and a negative on our 2. If you can't do that in a different color, make sure that you let yourself know. I always like to circle it if I'm working this with like pencil and paper and I don't have different colors. All right, combining like terms, we've got x squared and negative 8x squared. That's going to be a negative 7x squared. And then we're going to have 12x minus 16x minus x. So 12 minus 16 is negative 4, minus 1 is negative 5x. And then 36 minus 2 is 34. All over x minus 4, x plus 2, x plus 6. And negative 7x squared minus 5x plus 34. There's not any common factors there. There's not any factors of 7 times 34 that add to a negative 5. Some people don't like negatives on the leading coefficient in the numerator, and so you might see a negative factored out of the numerator, just to write that as a 7x squared plus 5x minus 34. When you do factor it out, you need to either have parentheses around that or make it clear that that negative is out in front of your fraction and it's not just on that 7. So you'll either put it clearly out front or put parentheses around that numerator so you know that you've taken it out of everything. And that's as simple as we can get this fraction. And so we are done. I'll see you guys next time.